Hello everyone and welcome back to the Defense Digest channel. The Tu-19 is the Russian Army's main self-propelled howitzer. Russia had around 850 of the 42-ton tracked artillery pieces in its inventory when it widened its war on Ukraine in late February. 9 months later, the Russians have lost 91 of their Tu-19, that outside analysts can confirm. Worse, at least 34 of the Tu-19 the Russians have lost are intact and in Ukrainian hands. That's enough to equip a whole artillery brigade. What's weird is that the Tu-19 should be hard to capture. Their 152mm guns fire shells as far as 22 miles, depending on the shell type. That should put Tu-19 batteries far enough behind the front line that it's all but impossible for the enemy to overrun them outside of a rout. That the Russians are losing so many working Tu-19 is testimony to two things: the accelerating speed of Ukrainian advances, and the increasing sloppiness of Russian leadership. There's no shortage of video and photographic evidence of Tu-19 meeting unhappy fates. The most recent might also be the most symbolic. A Tu-19 lies stranded in a roadside ditch somewhere in Luhansk Oblast in eastern Ukraine. A gleeful Ukrainian soldier celebrating on its turret as a Ukrainian Army M113 personnel carrier speeds past. The Tu-19 with its 5-man crew clearly was heading in the same direction as the M113 when it tipped into the ditch. That is, heading away from the front as Ukrainian forces advanced, but not nearly fast enough. That particular howitzer isn't the only one to meet such an embarrassing fate. After months of preparatory bombardment, the Ukrainian army in late August and early September launched twin counteroffensives in the east and south. The eastern counteroffensive quickly liberated 1,000 square miles of Kharkiv Oblast before barreling into neighboring Luhansk Oblast. Russian regiments broke and ran, leaving behind hundreds of tanks, fighting vehicles and howitzers, many of them in working condition. In 6 months of fighting ending September 1st, the Russians lost 61 Tu-19. 2 months later, the howitzer write-offs had spiked by a third. It's evident Russian batteries are giving away more and more of their big guns as they retreat. For the Ukrainian army, it's an artillery windfall. Before the wider war, the Ukrainians had just 35 Tu-19, and instead equipped most of their batteries with older Tu-1 and Tu-3. Recent losses include at least 3 Tu-19, but the 34 of the big guns the Ukrainians have captured from the Russians more than make up for those losses. The fast-moving Ukrainian army so far has whittled down the Russian Tu-19 force by a tenth, while nearly doubling its own inventory of the powerful howitzers. And this is far from an isolated phenomenon. The Ukrainian army also has evened out the Russian army's pre-war advantage in tanks by capturing many more tanks from the Russians than it's lost to the Russians. That's the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to subscribe to this channel so you don't miss any of our new content. Thanks for watching and see you next time.